Welcome back to the Table Talk magazine, the ultimate magazine style podcast blending business, personal development, pop culture, fashion tips, and the latest in tech with a dash of style. We are back for a Bondathon retrospective. I'm joined, as always, by my wonderful friends and co-hosts, John Evans, the Swiss Army knife of teachers. John, how are you?
Absolutely shattered. I feel a bit like Bond at the end of Quantum of Solace when he walks through the desert right now.
Okay. Or Roger Moore just after any of his films, and
Because he's quite old by then, wasn't he?
endless. Yeah, like, so you're shagged,
Yeah, I
basically.
wasn't going to say that, but yeah, I am.
Okay, fine. But obviously not the way that you may want to be. And moving swiftly on, it's our gadget guru with a heart of gold, Alex. How
Hello.
are you?
Yeah, I'm alright. I'm looking forward to Christmas now. Are we there yet?
We're not. We're almost there. Like, end of next week, I think, technically, for a lot of people, is like the end of work for 2024.
Yeah, raise a
Certainly
glass
is
to that.
for me. Yeah, I can't wait. I'm literally counting each day. You look very fresh-faced today, Alex. In
No,
contrast to
I'm
John, who
wired
looks like a haggard old...
today. I've I've crammed my prep in this last hour, so yeah, that'll be fun.
Oh, brilliant. That's lovely. Unlike John and I, who basically haven't done any prep.
Oh, I wouldn't say
there we
that.
go. But that's...
No, we're professionals here. We could blag it.
Mate, I'm a teacher. I can prepare a lesson in less than 5 minutes.
There you
I'm trying
go.
to sort my lighting out here.
You just need a little bit of cover makeup on your head to reduce the shine. A little bit of yeah.
Don't we all?
Teddy bear on my
That's
head.
just got weird.
No? Okay, fine. Right, sorry. Sorry for those of you that are watching the video version, the ones that are watching audio, or listening to audio rather, watching audio. You have been spared me having a teddy bear straddle my noggin. Right, so, Bondathon retrospective. That's it. We did it. We made it. All the way from Doctor No through to No Time to Die. We were really hoping, having stretched out the Daniel Craig saga a little bit longer than we maybe should have done, that there would be an announcement, but there haven't been any announcements from Eon Productions as yet. We still don't know who the next James Bond is, but that is not going to stop us from reminiscing on the Bondathon and maybe having our own thoughts, theories about the future of the Bond franchise. So, I think we will start with the big one. Who was your favourite James Bond of all of the James Bonds that we have seen? Alex.
You have to come to me first, don't you? Great. I'm going to put in a couple. Do you want just my first one?
You can talk around it if you want to. You don't just have to say it and move on.
Let's put
Give us your
Pierce
musings.
Brosnan as my favourite Bond. It's one of those things that's surprised me a little bit, because actually not all of his films were particularly strong. While technically Craig is better, I just smiled more with Brosnan because what he worked on was just a little bit lighter, and he didn't have the smarmy quips of like Roger Moore that felt really creepy. Instead, his one-liners were actually quite sharp and kind of, I like it. And it was just the age. That was my Bond. I just don't think I could change that.
Yeah. John.
I have a fondness for the Craig Meister, and he is probably the best dressed Bond. We'll talk about that later on. I do feel that my soft spot, for exactly the opposite reasons that Alex said, is for Roger Moore. I think because I grew up with him, he was my Bond, and he just strikes me as the closest to being Bond in real life as an actor as he was on screen. And I think if we maybe review an upcoming film about Roger Moore with Love, from Roger Moore with Love, I think we'll find out what a nice chap he was in the background, but also how he essentially became Bond in his real life as well. And I think I liked his smarmy quips. I thought they sat really well with his character. Yes, he was of his time, and the disparity between his age and some of the Bond girls became more and more alarming over time. Again, not an unfamiliar theme with the Bond franchise anyway. I just thought, Bobby and I both read his biographies, and I've read the diaries of the Live and Let Die diaries. He's just a genuinely nice guy who may have played the field a bit in his youth, but everyone who talks about him says he's the nicest guy you can meet. And for me, he typifies the old school Bond. And I think when we talk about what's next, we're never going to go back to that. So he's almost kind of like a moment in time as well. So he's my Bond. Bobby, how about you?
Yeah, so it's a really tricky one because I think each of them did such a great job in their own right. Even George Lazenby, who splits opinion, but I think for someone who had no acting experience whatsoever, he did such a great job. I'm really always torn when asked this question between Roger Moore and Pierce Brosnan, because Pierce Brosnan was my first Bond in that I saw GoldenEye in the cinema. It was the first film that I saw in the cinema, and I saw all of Brosnan's films in the movie theatre because I just hit that right sort of age, late teens. I was able to kind of go to the cinema and see whatever I wanted on my own. But then Roger Moore always holds that special place in my heart because he was James Bond when I was growing up. It was the dodgy VHS tapes that my uncle used to bring round to the house just to keep me occupied, and I would just sit there just absolutely enthralled by Jaws and all the antics between him and Roger Moore's Bond in The Spy Who Loved Me and Moonraker, and then later on Octopussy was another film that really captured little 6-7-year-old me's imagination. So I'd have to say Roger Moore for sentimentality probably edges it. But I want to give a special mention to Sean Connery because before we did the Bondathon, I hadn't really seen any of his films. So I couldn't really comment when you had a lot of older people saying Sean Connery is the best Bond, like no question. But he was great, and as we'll see later on, one of his films is my favourite ever Bond film, and part of that is his portrayal of the character in that particular movie. But I think just edging out Pierce Brosnan, I've got to give my favourite Bond to Roger Moore. God rest his soul as well. I have read his memoirs, and also just having seen the footage of him when he first played Bond in a comedy skit. I've told you guys about this. Yeah,
Was that in his Saint days?
It was. I think he was doing the Saint when he was asked to do that sort of comedy skit about James Bond being on holiday and bumping into a Russian spy. But yeah, he was destined to play that role, and for most of his tenure, he did such a great, consistent job as well. I think very underrated as an actor. But yeah, Roger Moore closely edging out Pierce Brosnan for me. So there we go. Getting emotional.
Okay. No
Special
shouts
mention,
for
obviously, to Timothy
Dalton.
Dalton. Did an amazing job with the two films that he had, and it was a shame that he didn't get his third. And obviously Daniel Craig, who just gave everything that he could to the role. I think every single Bond was great for their time, for the time that they had it.
It's not a franchise like this,
Here.
is there, in any other way that has so many strong, unique Bonds in their own ways? Wow. Which is probably why they're having such a problem announcing the next Bond.
Yeah, it's whatever people say about Daniel Craig, he's going to be such a tough act to follow. He did a great job following on from Pierce Brosnan, and he really made it his own. I mean, for his tenure, you didn't really think so much. You didn't really compare him to previous Bonds. I think maybe the biggest comparison was between Daniel Craig and Sean Connery, which is, testament to the job that he did.
He's a good actor. Keep an eye out for him. I think he's going to be Oscar material for his new film, William Burroughs' film. Queer, which I've seen a trailer for it and it looks amazing, but it depends whether it appeals to the mass market because it's not an easy film to watch. It's quite an unusual film. We'll see what happens. But great, go look at the range he's got. He's got quite a range, hasn't he?
Yeah. That's the thing. He was an amazing actor and he'd done amazing work before Bond, but he carried on doing amazing work in between Bond movies. So yeah, so definitely high marks to him, but that wasn't the question, and the question was, who's your favourite? And yeah, Roger Moore just edges out Pierce Brosnan. So there we go.
Wow.
So that's the guys. On to the girls. Favourite Bond girls. John, is she still there?
Do you know what?
Still up there?
Do you know what? Can I give my three in reverse order? I have laboured over this and laboured over this and laboured over this, and I want to mention Lea Seydoux and Jane Seymour. But I think having thought about it and then rewatched some of the scenes, here are my reverse order 3. And I think there's been a slight reassessment since all our Bondathons as well. When you look at them all together, you can reassess it. And I think it's going to be, number 3 is going to be actually Electra King, which is Sophie Marceau from The World Is Not
Yeah,
Enough.
good shout.
And number 2 is Teresa de Vincenzo, or as she got married to James Bond, Tracy Bond, Diane Rigg. And my number 1 is Paloma. Anna de Armas. She's got
I wasn't
literally
expecting that.
about 8 or 9 minutes screen time or something ridiculous. But I mean, you can see how much of an impact she made on both Daniel Craig, who's worked with her in Knives Out, but also on other filmmakers, because she's going to be in this new John Wick spin-off as well as essentially the same character, but even, more badass. So yeah, I do feel bad about Vesper Lind. I think she's such an integral character to the franchise. So I think she'd be in my top 5 with Jane Seymour. I think Vesper Lind, with maybe a little touch of Severin as well from Skyfall, because I thought she was really interesting. But yeah, those are my top 3.
Okay.
Massive. I mean,
Alex.
so before we head over to Alex, I did do a bit of research on how many Bond girls we've seen, and I think there's over 40, and it was big hats off for Honey Rider for Ursula Andress, who was essentially, she was the kind of the template for all Bond girls, wasn't she, coming out of the water, to the point where
Yeah.
Jinx, played by Halle Berry, copied that whole out of the water scene in the film that she was in. I can't remember what it was now. There have been, I think, 60. No, even more than that, more than 60, maybe 75 Bond girls, if you include some of the incidental girls that we see Connery boffing at the beginning of his films. My job's got easier over the Bondathon. I've had less to count, but 65 Bond girls is pretty impressive. So, Alex, tough choice.
I've got a question.
Yeah.
An extra question for you though, John, which is best bonk.
Probably Sophie Marceau's one, I think.
Okay, very
Because
specific.
The ice cubes.
Well, I just think the most was revealed. It was the most audacious scene in all the films, and we discussed that at the time.
Yeah.
That it was quite a non-PG scene for the franchise,
Yes.
and so therefore probably the most titillating, really.
Well, it's only fair that you answer that.
Yeah.
So that's,
Thank
yeah,
you.
that's
I've put some thought to it.
Okay, I've got a few, but I think if we're doing it in reverse order, then I think Honey Rider, Ursula Andress, and Dr. No. But the reason for that is because she was a template for a Bond girl pretty much ever since, and you get that wonderful one-liner. Are you looking for birds? No, I'm just looking, which I loved. But yeah, so I think she is on my top 3. I have an interesting one, which is Domino, played by Kim Basinger from Never Say Never Again. It's just, yeah, she comes across as with that mix of like sophistication and
Vulnerability.
I don't know, vulnerability. Yes, that's exactly the word. And she just does it perfectly. Yeah, so that comes across really well. My number 1 is Eva Green as Vesper Lind, actually, because she was very sophisticated. There was real intelligence behind that. And yeah, I think it's one of the first sort of Bond girls that kind of made you kind of think because of portrayal later on. So I think, yeah, I think it's really interesting.
That scene where she's crying in the shower is a very strong scene that she played.
Yeah, so that's very good. I do have a couple of honourable mentions, though. I've said it before, I'm going to say it again. Denise Richards as Christmas Jones in The World Is Not Enough. Look, I understand your concerns about this, Bobby and John, but I'm sorry, it's just, she will always be in Starship Troopers in my head, so that's fair enough. And then another one, which was quite interesting, was Camille from Quantum of Solace, played by Olga Kurylenko.
Yeah.
And yeah, she just comes across as a very modern, somewhat empowered, but obviously she's not entirely, but I just think it's just a very sophisticated modern Bond girl. So yeah.
So in reverse order, my top 3. So I kind of gone on the basis of the Bond girls that set my heart aflutter, and I didn't really want anything bad to happen to them.
Prepare yourself.
At number 3, we have Vesper Lind, played by Eva Green, who is one of the best Bond girls ever. I mean, she's one of the strongest written and also one of the strongest acted as well. The nuances that Eva Green put into her performance, those little moments were just sublime, and she did such an amazing job, and she is such a compelling character as well. And I love the way that she didn't take any shit from Daniel Craig's Bond, really. The repertoire between them on the train and, when they get to the hotel the first time and he pretty much dispenses with their cover identities and so on. She was just brilliant the way that she handled him and dealt with him. Number 2 has to be, God rest her soul, Diana Rigg on Her Majesty's Secret Service. She just, what can you say? It's stunning. Absolutely stunning.
She kept that kind of, again, that strong female character aspect to her acting all the way through to one of her final roles in Game of Thrones, which I think is brilliant. She's just that sort of a assistant, sort of strong actress. It's brilliant.
Yeah. And at number 1, it could only ever have been this lady, Ana de Armas as Paloma in No Time to Die. Come on, the whole freaking package. The whole package. And when she was no more, when she skipped out of the game, when she skipped out of the movie, a bit like, your favourite sort of first-person shooter where you get a cutscene and there's a character that comes in to help you out for a bit and then buggers off and you never see them again. You were kind of like, no, stay in Cuba, don't leave.
Bobby, it feels like you and I have got together and planned this ahead of Alex, because we've both chosen the same number 1s here. We haven't had any discussion together about this, which is interesting.
At all. Not at all. For the 8 minutes that she was on screen, she basically acted everybody else off it. Again, it's the little nuances in her performance as well, and the playfulness, and she just fizzed and popped, and she was amazing, absolutely brilliant. Honourable mentions go to Olga Kurylenko for sure, for Camille. That was quite a hard one actually between her and Eva Green as Vesper Lind for my top 3. Because as you know, if you think back to our Quantum of Solace episode, I really, really loved her in that role. She fought for that role and it was really her breakthrough. And after that, she just became one of the hardest working actresses in Hollywood. But, it was a very strong written character with the motivations that had been written for her were very, very believable, and obviously absolutely gorgeous as well. She just ticked all the boxes. And Sophie Marceau, gets, again, it was a big fight about putting her in my top 3 because, oh my God, she just takes your breath away. The world is not enough. She's just so beautiful, and you desperately don't want her to be the villain. But again, a strongly written character, motivations check, and she just flipping hell. Yeah, I'm getting a bit warm just thinking about it. Right, there we go. Favourite Bond girls, on to every good Bond needs a good villain. So our favourite villains. John, you're very good at doing an evil voice.
I found this very hard. That was terrible. That was more like Q, isn't it, than a Bond villain?
God.
Do you know what? I've got an interesting 3. I'm going to go for a number 3, Alec Trevelyan, which was Sean Bean in GoldenEye. I just when I first saw it, the betrayal was really interesting, and a new thing really that Bond was a theme that's used again and again. It has been used in the more recent films, sort of a person in his life that betrayed him, and Sean Bean brings that kind of style and sort of good looks to the film as well. That a lot of the other Bond villains are generally older, more portly, a kind of sedentary gentleman, aren't they? But he's kind of a dangerous villain. Number 2, I really struggle, but I'm going to say probably Ernest Stavro Blofeld, because he's been such a veneer through the Bond franchise and played by various different actors masterfully, more recently as well. Was it Stephen Waltz, the most recent one?
Yes.
Christoph Waltz.
It's Christoph Waltz, that's it, Christoph Waltz. But also, when he was in as leader of Spectre in various roles. But my number 1 villain is Jaws. By far, my number 1 villain is Jaws. Because he's such an interesting character. He's not arch villain, I know, but his journey from villain to eventually sort of his redemption and friend of Bond, and saving his life, and him having his own little story with his girlfriend at the end with the pigtails. He's my favourite Bond villain. And always will be. And I'm kind of wondering it when we just do our discussion of future Bond films, if he might even have a comeback. I don't know. We'll see.
Alex,
you've picked a few of mine actually.
Wow,
John, this is interesting. I totally agree. I was trying to explain to my daughter because she doesn't know who Sean Bean is. And I just said, it's his job to come into a role and die well, but die. She was like, yeah, okay, whatever. But there's no other way to describe it. And that image of him being dropped onto the radio telescope is just priceless. Okay, so I think I'm going to step it up slightly differently then. I'm going to talk about a couple that come to mind and make me laugh, and then I'm going to go for a really serious one. So one of them is Max Zorin, Christopher Walken from View to a Kill. Mainly just Christopher Walken being the villain is amazing. I don't really care if you buy it or not. It just doesn't matter. He's such a great actor, and to have him in the film was just that made that entire film.
Big
And
close
again,
friend of Roger Moore as well, apparently. Like a lifelong friend of Roger Moore.
And a lot of villains, I don't know what it is, but a lot of villains like drop off from heights. Like there are a lot. I just saw like clips, and there are quite a few that are just like plunged to their death. So
I'm gonna go up in this hot air balloon that I hid up my ass. For 20 years I hid this hot air balloon, this Zeppelin up my ass. Yes. And now, Roger Moore, before I kick you off the Golden Gate Bridge, I present this Zeppelin to you. Sorry.
Amazing impersonation of Christopher Walken there. Channeling his best
he was in
Pulp
the room.
Fiction.
Well, the thing is, when that happened, because my daughter was watching it, I said, it's all right. Christopher Walken can fly, so it's not a problem. Because obviously he can. Anyway. So, I think he needs a mention. The other one, I did have Blofeld on my list as well, so well spotted, John. I want to put a really serious one in, which is Rami Malek playing Lucifer Safin from No Time to Die. And I want to put him in because actually most of them go, oh yeah, I expect you to die, Bond. But it's just like, it doesn't seem to be malice and like, you just don't buy it. And the thing for him is he concocts such a brutal method of getting his own back. And so that kind of puts chills down me. I was like, yeah, that's really effective.
Technically, Alex, he's the only Bond villain that's actually killed Bond. Spoiler.
True. Yeah.
Essentially, hasn't he?
Very only successful villain.
Yeah.
Which is pretty bad rating for the villains. Come on, guys! It's like 24-1. I'm sure you could do better than that. There's one other that I want to put in for comical reasons, which is Gustav Graves, Toby Stevens playing in Die Another Day. And the only reason for him is completely implausible as a villain. Yes. I just didn't understand him at all. But it was just the fact that his entry was sort of skydiving over London and then going to Buckingham Palace in a suit. And at that point, I was just like, yeah, I'm in for this. I don't really care about it, but I'm in. Let's do it. And it was just very funny. So I loved that from him.
Can I do because I didn't mention any honourable mentions, but I think we haven't mentioned what. Sorry, Bobby, I can see you rolling your eyeballs at me, listeners. But we haven't mentioned Rosa Klebb, one of the very few female villains with her spiky shoes, because again, the actress who played her, which I'm going to very very quickly look up because I can't remember her name. She didn't live very long, did she? After the Bond film, if I remember rightly, we talked about her and when we did it, she was played by. Here we go. I'm padding now. Lotte Lenya. Lotte Lenya.
Oh, right.
And she was basically a high-ranking member of SMERSH at the time. Didn't do many films. She's just really interesting and kind of. I'm not sure. But I think she batted for the other side as well because she's in one of Fleming's novels. She was described as being sort of playing the other side. So I thought she was a really interesting character for that as well because she's not going to be affected by Bond's, seductions. So yeah, let's give a little pour a beer out there, pour one out for Rosa Klebb in her spiky shoes. Bobby, what about you?
In the interest of time, I'm not going to give any honourable mentions. I'm just going to give you my top three. So at number 3, Javier Bardem as Silva in Skyfall. Just one of the creepiest, best acted, delicious. I could watch his entry into the franchise, that scene, that long take, over and over and
in the server room,
over again, and just never ever get bored. He just chews the screen off, and he's brilliant. I mean, never, I've got my biases, obviously, towards the Spanish side of my family. And we go to his sister's tapas bar in Madrid, blah, blah, blah. But he is just one of the most memorable for me as well. Number 2, from GoldenEye, Xenia on a top, played by Famke Janssen, because she's just fucking nuts. Like, she's absolutely unhinged.
Didn't she injure Brosnan doing that sex scene? I think we talked about that, didn't we?
I think she bruised his ribs.
Or at least the
his
fight
ribs
in the prison cell or something.
Yeah. But she is absolutely freaking nuts. From the moment she first appears in the Ferrari on screen, you're thinking to yourself, I mean, she's beautiful, but you do not want to go down that road because she is freaking trouble. The way when she kills people, she gets off on it. I think it was written in that her character actually orgasms when she kills people.
Yeah.
Just absolutely freaking unhinged. And then number 1, it has to be Richard Keeler's Jaws. When I was very young, the stuff of my nightmares, but I just couldn't, I just had to keep watching Moonraker and The Spy Who Loved Me again and again and again, and it was for Jaws more than anything else. And I loved him. I really did. And I was really glad that he got his sort of happy ending in Moonraker as well. That was really sweet. But in The Spy Who Loved Me, he was... And I love the interplay between him and Roger Moore, especially on the cable car in Moonraker, when he smiles at Roger Moore, and the way that Roger Moore smiles back is sort of like a grimace.
But it's kind of two... There's two adversaries that kind of know each other by now, isn't it? By Moonraker, they know each other and they know their capabilities. Is he one of the only ongoing villains? I'm trying to think of any other ongoing villains played by the same actor in more than one film.
It feels like it is.
Mr. White's been in a couple of films, hasn't he?
Yeah, it was Mr. White and also Christoph Waltz obviously did Blofeld twice. But I
feel like he's the most memorable one.
Yeah. So there we go. There's our top villains. I will give a special mention, actually. I'll give a special mention. You have to mention Blofeld. My favourite Blofeld, who also for me was the creepiest, was Donald Pleasance. Donald Pleasance's Blofeld was just skin crawling, and he did such a great job as well, especially because he was sort of drafted in at the last minute to replace the other guy who looked a bit like Santa Claus.
And was that Ashley Perkins?
No.
Who was it?
The guy was in... We need to go back to previous Bondathon episodes for the facts on that.
Yeah.
Can't remember them. But Donald Pleasance's Blofeld was the best for me, in my personal opinion. Any keyboard warriors out there that are going to come and attack. Next, let's have a look. Okay, favourite outfits. Now, this can be Bond. This could be one of the girls. This could be one of the villains, but favourite outfits. And you don't need to do a top 3, just anything that springs to mind. John, I feel like you should answer this first, because you're always writing wish lists of clothes that you want from the films. Roger Moore's double denim?
Well, we're always going to mention that, but I don't think we should. I think we've got to mention... I'll start off with Craig's double sort of canvas brown sandy suit he wears at the end of Quantum of Solace when he's in that sort of road, is it like a station waiting for a pickup? I thought that was a really interesting suit. It kind of was crumpled, but still looked stylish. I think we need to. The most iconic costume in the entire series has to be Honey Rider's bikini. I think that's the most. If we look at any outfit, obviously, and then I would say any sort of tux that either Connery wore or some of the Tom. I know not the big Tom Ford fan, but that style, the one that's inspired a lot of your wedding suits, Bobby. I think that just the black suit, the tux, the casino wear, that kind of outfit, that typifies Bond, doesn't it? Really. The only other thing I can mention is there's one outfit we've never talked about ever in any of the films and any of the Bondathons, and that is the suit that Bond wears when he's pointing down the barrel of the gun in the idents of the openings. Sometimes it's a silhouette, but that obviously when they're designing those barrel shot idents, there's obviously a type of suit that he wears, which is essentially if there's a logo for Bond, that'll be it. And so I would say that. And of course,
is it a dinner jacket?
Yeah, it's just the standard dinner jacket. But is it a tux, or is it a more modern suit?
It just frames him, doesn't it? It just completely frames,
And also, of course, Anna de Armas' outfit in her venture as Paloma. Over to you, boys.
It's difficult,
Let's
isn't
go
it?
cool
There's
down a
so
bit.
many.
Yeah.
There's so many because you know, like the girls, you could go Vesper's dress, the purple dress, anything that Sophie Marceau wore, anything
Her outfits were a
Denise
lot more.
Richards wore.
Well, the outfits of Sophie Marceau were a lot more kind of flighty and sort of shift. They were less. There's a lot more kind of floating silk there, wasn't there? Really. Well, I guess that was the era that she was in. And Denise Richards was just
Also, she's
Lara
French.
Croft, wasn't she?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I wouldn't rate her costume, but they clearly didn't put much thought into it. I'm not complaining, but yeah, it's not a costume I'd really think too much about.
Outfit-wise, what's on your list, Alex?
So I think for me, after John picking practically all of Craig's,
Basically.
I was thinking about this going, but I can only really relate to Craig's costumes because otherwise it's just the suits in some of the earlier days felt, yes, they're very much Bond, but they just didn't speak to me the way that Bond did. I think one of the things that I liked about Craig's Bond was actually some of the casual wear that he chose, because while I couldn't relate to the, you know, he looked very, very dashing and dapper in like all of the suits that John's mentioned. I couldn't relate to that because I couldn't really think about being the one wearing that. You know, he's had some really good Craig had some really good combos of sort of casual stuff that just looked great on him. So there was a suede jacket and a polo. Anything, he's got a great frame for it. Anything that sort of shows off his chest and just looks great. And then as a man, you're like, oh yeah, I could pull that off. Obviously couldn't, but it was just nice to feel like you could. The one that came to mind particularly, and again, it's not particularly great costume, but it's just one that come to mind, is the commando sweater. Just because I think it just felt really, really relevant at the time.
Bobby's got one.
So I think it was just one of those.
I think he's got one. So listeners, Bobby's just left the podcast studio to go into another room. I think he's got a jumper.
He's fishing it
Yeah.
out.
I mean,
I was getting rid of my dog. Who's
what's her? What a letdown.
What disappointing.
But but that I've got a feeling I might end up getting that for Christmas because I've been hinting at Carolina.
Like crazy.
Quite
But
strongly. And I got
it's
her. I did
timeless,
go to
isn't it?
Enpeel.
Yeah.
I did go to Enpeel because I bought her a new cashmere and rabbit or something scarf and gloves. It's just like, you know, I just handed my Amex over and just, you know, shut my eyes. But I did bring the catalogue back and sort of purposely left it open on her desk at the
That's not subtle, Bobby.
outfit.
That's not subtle.
Very good.
So I might be getting that for Christmas.
You've got to
but we'll
wonder
see.
how much of an impact economically on the world Bond style has had on modern, on modern dress wear, and like how many people have said I want to look like Bond in weddings and in evening wear and occasions.
Yeah, completely.
Right, my
yeah,
turn.
so I think that's it. So sorry to give you more, Craig, but that was mine.
Okay, so this is really difficult, and it's not going to be a top three. I'm going to overstep my boundaries, but who cares? Daniel Craig's suit, the three-piece blue pinstripe at the end of Casino Royale, when he hoists the gun across his shoulder and he says James Bond for the first time, standing over Mr. White. Pierce Brosnan's coat when he collects the BMW 7 Series from Q, the remote control car.
Oh, you love
He's
that
wearing
car.
that sort of camel overcoat. By that same token, because it actually kind of mimics the one that Roger Moore's wearing in Live and Let Die. And Roger Moore, for me, edges the other Bonds as the best dressed Bond because he always looks so good. Sean Connery's grey suit in the Kentucky Derby scene.
I know the one you mean. I was going to mention that actually. That's his Glenn Plaid suit, three-piece suit, isn't it?
Yeah,
Outside the
one.
stables. Yeah, that is a great suit.
Yeah,
good choice.
Which I've done a version of that one for myself. Paloma's dress, obviously, and last but not least, Daniel Craig's Brioni tux in Casino Royale. That was my wedding suit. I copied that exact suit for my wedding.
He gets that covered in blood, doesn't he? As well,
my whole outfit.
Yeah.
My dinner shirt, everything was Casino Royale.
That's very important.
That was what I got married in, and it was. I look back at those photos, and I still look fucking cool.
Did you flip your Aston after the wedding, though?
No. We went in a Rolls Royce 1940 something Silver Wraith.
Silver Wraith.
Yep.
Very nice.
Like Sean Connery. So there we go. Next up, we have
Inspector Gadget.
I
Yes,
think it might.
favorite gadgets.
Gadget
We
go.
gotta. Yeah, I'll cut that out and put the actual music in when I
You say
edit
that
this.
every single time, Bobby.
Sound like a strangled
Maybe
goat.
you'll do it this
Yeah.
time. No, you won't.
Um,
You won't. You won't do it.
right, Inspector Gadget, over to you. We've got to give this one to you, Alex.
So I do have a few, but they're probably not the ones you're thinking of.
These
I
are
think
not the gadgets you're thinking of, Mr. Bond.
I was thinking about this, and I think the best watch.
Well, how did we not mention Knick-Knack for Bond
Villains.
Yeah.
That
With
little
his-
creepy bastard. Anyway, sorry. Honourable mention.
So best watch would be the laser watch in GoldenEye. I think it's a very good use of it. Yeah, and a classic watch. So I think that was my my best watch. I think the best phone is the Ericsson phone that controls the BMW and Tomorrow Never Dies.
Oh my God, Alex.
Well, it's got to be really. I mean, the other one was the Nokia communicator, which was used. I can't remember the film where it was used, where it was a real Nokia communicator. I can't. It was one of the Brosnan ones, and I ended up buying a Nokia communicator just based on that, and racked up £1,000 phone bill on the internet.
Holy moly!
Yeah, just don't do that. That's not a great way of getting through your student years. But anyway, it was memorable, so I thought that was worth a comment. The X-ray specs, that was another Brosnan one, wasn't it? I think.
Was that where he's in
I have
the
a feeling
dinner
it-
party looking at everyone's underwear? That might have been more.
Yeah,
It might be more.
that's it.
No. That was... Sorry, excuse me. That was Pierce Brosnan in The World Is Not Enough.
Yeah, so I feel like that's a classic one. It needs to come in. I have an interesting one here, which is something that was used twice, which is not massively exciting, but it's the mini breather
Oh, in Thunderball.
for when it was swimming. So that was in Thunderball, and then it was later used in Die Another Day as well. That was sort of.
It was also
honouring that.
also used in the Phantom Menace, if you remember.
Damn it, John! You just pinched my. You're
Sorry, mate.
spot on. It was 3 years later.
Yeah.
It was in. Yeah, you're absolutely right. It was in the Phantom Menace. Obi-Wan just goes, "Oh look," and that has to be a nod. There is no other way.
The Jedi are kind of on a mission like James Bond, and so I thought maybe we could just
What accent-
borrow the
What accent
rebreather.
is that? Is that Lucas?
It's supposed to be George Lucas.
Is it? Oh, okay.
That's not great. Stick there. Yeah, I don't know about that.
Stick to your walking.
Stick to your Christopher
Mr.
Walken.
George Lucas!
That's better.
Yeah.
Honey,
no
he
one-
nicked the rebreather!
No one wants to be Jar Jar, does they?
Oh, you leave Jar Jar alone.
Fucking idiot you are!
Leave Jar Jar
Messed
alone.
around with the original trilogy you did.
God,
Fat
here we go.
bastard you are, George Lucas.
God.
Diet Coke not helping.
I think there's Jar Jar, and then there's somehow Palpatine returns. I think both of those things are really lost their way from a Star Wars point.
This is not a Star Wars
We're going off
podcast.
topic. It's not a Star
My
Wars
fault,
podcast.
completely. Sorry.
Okay.
Get back to
I
Bond.
think the only other one, I mean, we really have to have an honourable mention for Q and all of his brilliant quips, Desmond Llewellyn's quips. I just think they're amazing. And then I've got one here which I thought was funny, which was the GoldenEye from GoldenEye, which looks like a trackball from his computers. It's just like red thing that you. I just thought it was fun. They must have spent all of about 10 minutes working out what it would look like, and that was it. So I thought that was it. I haven't done a vehicle yet. We'll get on to that.
No, we'll do vehicles next. Right, John, you're not allowed to have as much time as
No,
him.
okay.
He gets it because he's gadget.
Yeah,
guru,
no.
okay?
I mean,
So,
I
get on with it.
think one of the gadgets I was going to mention, we're talking cars, which I think is the same car you're going to mention, Alex. Anyway, I'm going to go for my top three is the jetpack in Thunderball. When I saw that jetpack, I thought that was the future. Do you know? I really wanted one of those for many years. So that's my number three. I mean, very quick here. My number two is one of my favourite gadgets from all the films was the crocodile submersible from Octopussy. It's the most hilarious thing in the world.
Nice.
Bizarre but memorable stealth entry gadget. And my number one, because of its style and its versatility and the most practical Bond tool, was the Q branch attaché case from Russia with Love. which had a
Very
hidden
good.
knife, gold coins, tear gas, everything in it, and was just, I mean, if I could own any gadget from the Bond films, and I don't mean, Aston Martin Vanquishes, because you just get one of those, wouldn't you, over everything else, would be that attaché case. It's amazing. Those are my top three.
Brilliant.
Bobby, over to you.
So yeah, I've also got the jetpack because that was the first time I saw it when we saw that film for the Bondathon. It was the first time I'd ever seen it, apart from on a movie poster, I think, because he's wearing it in the movie poster for that film. But I'd never seen it in action before, and I just, like you, I just thought it was absolutely brilliant. I really want one of those.
Not just that, Bobby. It's one of the few gadgets that was actually a real thing.
Yeah,
It wasn't a special effects.
Speaking of other gadgets that were actually a real thing, another Sean Connery one, Little Nelly.
Oh yeah.
Little Nelly, absolutely brilliant. I mean, you need the whole of Q Branch to meet you wherever you are to put the damn thing together, but still, once that thing was assembled and up, it was freaking awesome. And then, I don't know if this is kind of cheating, because technically it's a car, but the DB5...
No, you can't say that. That's cars. No, you can't.
All the gadgets on it... No, because in that scene with the jetpack, when he puts the jetpack in the back of the DB5, and then we see the DB5 do all those amazing things, like every single gadget on that car. If I can't have that one, then I'll go to Roger Moore, because you already said my other one, which would have been the watch, the Omega from GoldenEye. Yeah. So I'll go to Roger Moore, and Roger Moore's little magnet thing that he used to undo the zip
dress.
The girl that he was...
Oh, yeah.
Monkey.
That was great, wasn't it?
Yeah,
I was always rubbish with bra straps and stuff, so that would have helped me out quite a lot.
Okay, fair enough. I mean, the DB5 we'll talk about later anyway, but yeah, fair enough. There's a good reason why it's so good.
Well, guess what? We can talk about it now, because...
Exploding pen.
Favourite
Exploding
vehicles.
pen, guys.
Okay, GoldenEye.
I am invincible. Boris, yeah.
GoldenEye.
Favourite vehicles. Here we go. The cars that you, if money were no object, you could have in your garage. You can have 3 cars on your driveway from the Bond movies.
Bobby,
what are they?
You go first this time. You go first this time. Go on, you get to choose first.
Yeah, you go. Go on. You do it. Go on.
Well, it's the DB.
Yep. Okay.
Even though I really rinsed this car, the invisible shit car from Die Another Day or whatever that film was called.
Is that a DB10?
Because it would be quite handy to have a car that had invisibility.
It was the Aston Martin Vanish, Bobby. It's the Aston Martin Vanish from Die Another
Vanish rather than Vanquish. Yeah.
And then, even though it would probably break down all the time, it has to be the Lotus Esprit, the one that converts into a submarine.
That's my choice too.
The Spy Who Loved Me.
Yeah, you've pinched.
Yeah, we've all chosen that. How funny.
Car of our childhoods.
That.
Yeah. So that should make yours pretty quick then, John. So Lotus Esprit and what?
No, listen, I've got 3. I'm going to mention those 2, but I've got some other choices as backup. So my number 3 is the Citroen 2CV from For Your Eyes Only, for its ultimate comedy value. And I've got a smaller garage so it would fit in. Number 2 was the actually I was going to go for the Aston Martin V8 Vantage from the Living Daylights, and then the DB5 from Goldfinger, mainly because it was the toy car Bond I had when I was a kid. I had it with a little retracting shield at the back, the ejector seat and the cannon and so on. But since you've chosen all those, I'd like to give an honourable mention to the Toyota 2000 GT convertible from You Only Live Twice.
Nice.
Because that was Daniel Craig's favourite Bond car of all time, apparently. And I think it's a really quirky car. And I'd like to also mention the Ford Mustang Mach 1, the Mach 1 from Diamonds Are Forever, for that amazing two-wheeled scene through the alleyway, which then flipped wheels by mistake. So they had to film a scene where they were rocking from side to side to cover up for the fact the stuntman had used the wrong wheels in those scenes. So I like that's, and we haven't got very many Fords on our list because they weren't often around in Bond films. So I thought I'd include those.
Alex?
I've not got many left. It's
difficult.
I think there needs to be an honourable mention for the Russian T-95 tank.
A brilliant choice.
I think that's quite important.
If you can't fit it in your garage, you just knock your garage down, can't you, Alex? Basically.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's good. I think another one that was underappreciated was the rickshaw from Octopussy. I think that's one that you didn't
Do you mean the
pick.
tuk tuk?
Don't know
Do you
why.
mean the tuk tuk?
Yeah, got to have the tuk tuk.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I think that's important, and I think an honourable mention to Land Rover Series 3.
Yeah.
It was in No Time to Die, but it's been in. I'm sure it's been in others,
Bobby,
but it's just timeless.
you've got to mention the BMW 750, the IL from Tomorrow Never Dies, which was the remote control car that you love so much. Can't forget that, really.
Yeah, but I don't love the actual car.
No, it's just
I
what
like
it can
the
do.
tech. But yeah,
So
but
would
I
you
don't
prefer
really
the
like
Z8
big cars like that. I'd have preferred the
Z8.
I mean, to be honest, the Honda S2000. I've just sadly sold my Supra, by the way, listeners. So the Supra's gone. The roof of that car was inspired by that Honda S2000 roof. But I have got my new BMW arriving on Saturday, which I can't wait for.
Oh, you didn't mention that, Bobby.
I will be doing a video. Yeah, I will do. We will be doing a podcast and we will be doing video content for the YouTube channel. So make sure that you subscribe, etc. If you want to see not just my new G87 M2, but you also want to see the process of me building it out, because we have got lots of special carbon fiber body kit parts, etc., that are going to go onto the car almost straight away, thanks to my friends at CT Carbon in Hertfordshire. Shout out to Harry. Thanks for all your help with that. So that is coming to the channel very soon. But I will give an honourable mention on vehicles to the phallic space shuttle that swallows other space shuttles.
The hungry penile spaceship. Brilliant.
The penile spaceship, yeah, exactly. Was it You Only Live Twice?
Was that the one with Jonathan Pryce?
Only...
No, it wasn't. Was it? That's a submarine.
No.
It was the one with
old Sean
really terrible special effects, if I remember rightly. Really bad.
Yeah, but the beginning was terrifying because that poor astronaut got his line snipped and he went spiraling off into space.
Yes.
Yeah, there we go. It's quite horrific. Okay,
it was You Only Live Twice.
It
was You Only Live Twice.
Vehicles. If anyone who's still watching or listening at this point, get involved, right? If you disagree with any of our choices, firstly, take a long, hard look in the mirror and get a life. But you know, if there's anything we've not mentioned in our top threes that we forgot about or that you are really passionate about, then write in, join in the conversation in the comments on YouTube, etc., etc. We'd love to hear from you. So moving on to one-liners and quips, our favourite one-liners from the series.
I mean, you've got to mention "No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die." I mean, it is the iconic sentence from Ulrich Goldfinger.
You expect me to talk? No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die.
Any joke that Roger Moore made at any point, and everything that Desmond Llewellyn has said. I can't quote anything right now, but my favourite of his was basically when Bond turned around and said, after many years of these sort of jokes, saying, "What's that?" And Q says, "That, Bond, is my lunch. Put it down." And it was like a baguette he was holding, which I think is hilarious.
Yeah.
Do please try and return some of this equipment in pristine order. Don't touch that. It's my lunch.
I think one that stands out for me that I've mentioned on the Bondathon before is, and you have to help me with the exact quote here, but it was something about Christmas comes but twice a year.
Yep.
What's wrong about you? Yeah? How so?
I thought Christmas only comes once a year.
We're all children at heart, aren't we? Someone's at the door. That's not a line from Bond. I can't think of anything else. Bond quips. Over to you, Alex. Come on, you know a few of these. We might be able to think of some more whilst you're talking.
So Roger Moore saying "shocking." He did this several times, I think.
Shocking.
But he just has a single line that just goes. So I think a lot of Roger Moore ones. Pierce Brosnan's ones were good. I think the Honor Tops. She always did like a squeeze. Was quite good. So that was
Shocking.
That was quite nice.
Positively shocking.
I did like the opening sequence with Casino Royale, where Craig basically his quip is they said the first one's easy but the first one's hard but the second one is, and then he gets shot and then Craig just says yes considerably and just cuts him off. So I think that's quite good because it's actually a really quiet scene and he doesn't say very much and he's just like, yeah, nice, like it. So I think that's...
Made you feel it, did he? Well, you needn't worry. The second is... Yes. Considerably.
There's a quip from Bond, Roger Moore Bond, in that Moonraker film where he says, "I think he's attempting re-entry," that I quite liked.
Yes, that's it. Wasn't that Desmond Wells?
Yeah, possibly, yeah.
I think it was because I think he was like, "What's happening?" and then he had to, and I think that was quite funny
because it's a whole setup, isn't it, as well? And obviously
Exactly.
Thunderball when Bond kills Vargas with a spear gun and goes, "I think you got the point." I mean, at the time, that was like cutting edge humor, wasn't it? Really?
Yeah. No, it was great. So there were some really good ones. But yeah, no, I think it's those are things that elevate Bond from like, because they just make you laugh, and I think that's what I enjoyed about them. And there's another one that comes to mind, which is Craig with Lashif talking about the itch that he's got down there, and then he creases up saying, "Everyone will know you scratch my balls."
That's a good one.
Which
now everyone's going to know that you died scratching my balls.
That's it. But again, the thing is, it's just that's what makes it, the lack of that is one of the reasons. Like, No Time to Die is a difficult one because some of them that they don't have many quips and in Craig's, and you miss that. Whereas a Brosnan one, it was like every 5 minutes there was a stupid quip. It was great.
Probably. How about you,
John?
Well, I've mentioned mine, but I'm just trying to think of any Brosnan ones that you're mentioning. Wasn't there?
Mine are sort of. I've got a few from Daniel Craig. I've got one from Sean Connery when Pussy Galore tells him her name, and he says, "I must be dreaming."
They're so simple, aren't they? It's just the context.
And the thing with Sean Connery is that, like, he could really deliver them as well. Like, he was so good at doing the brutal, but also with the levity as well.
Yeah.
And I think because he had that cheeky nature in real life, I mean, so many from him. From the Daniel Craig era, Skyfall, when we first meet Ben Whishaw's Q at the museum, and Daniel Craig says, "A gun and a radio. Not exactly Christmas, is it?" And then Q's like, "Were you expecting an exploding pen? We don't really go in for those anymore." But even better, he tops that in No Time to Die when he's like, I told you to bring the car back in one piece, not in pieces." And then Tanner's laughing in the background as well. God, sorry, I love Ben Whishaw. By the way, Speaking of Ben Whishaw, have you seen Black Doves yet?
Yeah,
on Netflix with him and Kira? It's brilliant. Absolutely. Bang.
Does he only drink champagne in the series? I've heard he only drinks champagne or something, doesn't he? Yeah. Interesting.
It's so good. Carolina worked out that I fancy Keira Knightley, so yeah.
That's not hard,
because I'm never usually interested in these shows, and as soon as like, "Oh, Keira Knightley's in it, let's watch it," and she's like,
"Is she on your list?"
She is now, yeah. Her and Natalie Portman and my new friend Freema, Dr. Helen. Yeah, Natalie Portman and Keira. That would be a whole Star Wars thing going on.
I always wondered why Natalie Portman didn't do Bond. Actually, she'd been quite good in Bond, I think.
Yeah.
No, I don't. I think she would have stuck out like a sore thumb.
You think?
Yeah.
Too well known, is she?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and then pretty much anything that Roger Moore said, ever, and yeah.
He always did have an inflated opinion of himself. As Kananga explodes in the water. I love Roger Moore.
Then doesn't Moneypenny have one for Pierce Brosnan, Samantha Bond's Moneypenny, when she says, "Good evening, James. I trust you'll stay on top of things."
He's always been a cunning linguist, hasn't he, after all?
God, yeah, at the beginning.
Yeah.
With the... Brilliant. Right, so moving on from one-liners and quips to our favourite theme songs from the Bond franchise. John, your favourite songs, the songs that inspire you, that get your blood pumping, that you will hit repeat because you just got to listen to that tune again whilst blowing things up in Call of Duty.
Well, I mean, the first track the first tune I always play in Call of Duty to begin with is the Bond theme. You know, the actual Bond theme is just so amazing. But I don't think that counts really. That goes without saying. I like.
Do you control your character across the screen and then sort of turn around to the camera and shoot?
Well, it's first person, so you can't really do that. That's the problem.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, the question is, do we go for the really iconic themes that have been like knocking around our heads for the last 50 years, or do we go for songs that we really like? Because
I mean, go for whatever you want. I mean, if you do it this way, if I put a gun to your head and said, you're going to die in about 15 minutes time, you can only ever listen to 3 more songs, and they can only be from the James Bond series.
Yeah.
Which 3 do you listen to before you die?
Okay, so I think, not in any order, but I think I really like that the Chris Cornell one. Is it Do You Know My Name from Casino Royale?
Yeah.
It's so not the most Bondy, but I just think it's a really good song that I could listen to over and over again. I think you've got to include Bassie's Goldfinger in there, because that is the Bond sound, without being the Bond theme. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And I think that's really good. I'm trying to think of one more. There's so many to choose from. But I think probably my favourite, I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it all now, that we're all going to cry about when we hear it again, is Louis Armstrong's We Have All the Time in the World. I think that's my number one non-actual Bond theme song. It's just an amazing song.
Alex?
Yeah, it's a good choice. I mean, I did have Chris Cornell on my list. Another one that comes to mind is Skyfall by Adele. I just think it's very much epitomises a Bond theme. So I think I really like that one. I think License to Kill with Gladys Knight is probably like a classic one that comes to mind. It's one of those things that there was just a raft of Bond songs that were completely different to the film that you just watched, and I just think that was one of them that just kind of it was tied in, but it just it still had that different kind of put shivers down your back when you think about it, because you're like, oh yeah, I know exactly which film this is. And then I have one other, which is View to a Kill by Duran Duran.
Yeah, it's a great thing. Childhood favourite, actually.
Yeah, I love that. I could listen to that all day.
So
that's
if you think of the Eiffel.
Yeah.
So I've got in my top 3, I've got A View to a Kill as well. I absolutely love that song. It really captures the imagination. You know, for me, my favourite Bond songs are the ones where I've said this before so many times, if I'm in the car, just put my foot down on the accelerator a little bit more, my jaw hardens, and I just, you know, sort of fancy myself as 007 in that moment.
Don't kill yourself, Bobby.
But yeah, Live and Let Die. Don't worry, it's only 500 horsepower. Quoted, more than that. Live and Let Die, Paul McCartney and Wings. Freaking amazing song. Like, it's probably my favourite. That, and also the cover version by Guns N' Roses, which was phenomenal. And then number 1, Diamonds Are Forever, Shirley Bassey. Not from one of the best Bond films, but the song just had so much promise. The opening notes to that song just send shivers up my spine every single time, and it's a perfect song for me, really. It's so good.
It's hard. It must be hard, Bobby, because talking about that song is the reason it's so good is because it's big band, isn't it? Okay, it's orchestral sound, and a lot of the more modern Bond films have tried to move away from that, like Billie Eilish, which is a good song. But when you lose the brass and when you lose the big band and the orchestra, you kind of lose that epic sound of Bond. Does that make sense?
I think also it's the cadence of that song, because it starts very quiet, and then it rises, and then it sort of settles in when that bass line drops.
Yeah.
It's just, the movement of that song is just so beautiful to me and so inspiring as well. And it really, in your mind, if you forget about the actual film that we got, that song sets up what could have been an amazing revenge thriller, bearing in mind what had happened before it and on Her Majesty's Secret Service. Speaking of which, that is my honourable mention, is the theme from On Her Majesty's Secret Service, later remixed by the Propellerheads. But the theme from On Her Majesty's Secret Service is James Bond through and through and through and through. Listen to that all day long. And so there we go. Another honourable mention would be Aha's The Living Daylights. Great song.
Oh yeah.
Living Daylights. Oh, I love that song. It's a good song.
Yeah.
It's just like that's in the action. The thing that comes to mind is when there's that scene where Timothy Dalton's hanging off a plane, and then you just hear the ding ding ding.
God,
and
yeah.
it just like
It kicks in.
as soon as that starts playing,
Stops.
and then you're just like, oh, it's amazing. I know exactly where I am. I know it's very 80s, but and of the time, but it just that's a good song.
Also, another honourable mention to David Arnold for all of his work on Tomorrow Never Dies, and Hans Zimmer for the piece of music during the scene where Bond and what's her face, Léa Seydoux, her character Madeline, are in the DB and she's pleading with him and they're shooting at the car.
Oh yeah.
That section of music in that film was absolutely fucking amazing. Absolutely amazing. If you're not sure what I'm talking about, if you're watching or listening to this, or even you two there, after this, go to No Time to Die. Just pick that scene and just listen to it. You'll find the clip on YouTube if you don't own the movie. But that scene where he's sat in the car, they're shooting at the car, the windows are gonna burst, she's pleading with him, and then he bursts into action. The music in that sequence is gold. Absolute gold. There we go. Okay, so moving on from theme songs and scores, we're almost at the end. So that means it's time for our ratings and reviews to revisit them and talk about our top 3 Bond films of all time. This is our ultimate ranking. We might have some joint in there, so we might be mentioning more than 3. But let's go to Mr. Generous with his scores. Alex.
All right, I'll give you this, but then I think there's one more that I'd like to talk about afterwards, maybe.
Sure.
We'll see if there's time. Okay, so in true fashion, the ones that I've picked are not the highest rated ones, Bobby. So I know that's going to annoy you, but I had to think about which ones for me were the ones that I enjoyed the most. And there's I've got 3, and they're all from different eras. So I'm going to do this in reverse order. So number 3 is Moonraker. It's the most enjoyable Moore film that I can think of. It's completely absurd, but that's what made it so much fun for me, and I just left it grinning. And I just think that that's a nice place to leave a Bond film. Is it's like that. My next one is one of my favourite Bonds is GoldenEye, a Brosnan one. Not necessarily his best, but it just is something that there's something in there for me, and I just enjoyed it a lot. I think probably that was one of the first ones that kind of really made a mark on me when I was younger. So that's probably why it still has a kind of soft spot in my heart. And then I think the last one, and probably my favourite Bond, not by the scores, Bobby, is Skyfall. I think that while No Time to Die is arguably better technically and in lots and lots of respects, I just think you can't really give it that title when it's the end of Bond. Whereas I think Skyfall it covers so many things. It's like deep, it's moving. It's just when it go up to the Scottish Highlands and stuff. It's just, the scenery is breathtaking and the storyline is great. Yeah, it's just that there's this real balance between big things and small things that just worked really well there. So I think that's my favourite.
Interesting.
Everyone's very quiet. What were you not expecting any
respectful.
of that?
Contemplating our choices as well still, I think.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Oh, I see. Right. I didn't pick anyone that anyone else would have thought, did I?
Yeah.
I'm sure a couple of them.
We'll find out in a minute. You probably did.
Right.
John.
That explains a lot.
I have a lot of joint films. I'm going to talk about Daniel Craig. I think the Daniel Craig films are really good modern films. And I think it goes without saying that both Skyfall and No Time to Die are really good films. And I love them. They're among my favourite films. So I'm just going to say Well done, to Daniel Craig. We love him. We love those films in general. I even quite enjoyed rewatching Quantum of Solace, which says quite a lot about that range. I'm going to put those to one side, really, and I'm going to really think about the films that have lived with me for most of my life that I've enjoyed. And so it's a bit interesting. So my number three is Octopussy, just because of the colours in that film and it's got some of Bond's best quips and the locations and the Bunker's mad storyline and just the hilariousness of some of the scenes in that, like the battle at the end with the assassins in the fort. My number two, just because it's such a foundation of all Bond, is on Her Majesty's Secret Circus. I already like the soundtrack to that, but I just think that's also it's one of the first ones we did together as the three of us, I think. There are a couple of Bondathons without us and so on. So I've got a bit of a fun spot for that. And then my number one got to be Moonraker. It's the one film I can watch over and over again. And I have to hand it to Eon Productions or whoever's done the remasters. Rewatching all these films in 4K has been such a delight. And in some cases, kind of gives a fresh new look and new vision to these films that we could only really appreciate originally in the larger formats at the cinema, which we could never really enjoy as much on VHS or the old broadcast 4x3 TVs we watch them on. It's been so nice to rewatch these films in widescreen and higher quality, but they've given me kind of a new fondness. But Moonraker, just amazing, and what a great thing to bring out at the same time as Star Wars.
Yeah.
What a swagger! What a
think-
swagger!
The other fascinating thing about Moonraker is just how well the special effects stand up,
Yeah.
which was a big shock to me when we watched it, because I hadn't seen that film since I was a kid. And again, watching it in 4K, you're always kind of worried that it's going to show
So the
up
wires,
a lot. Yeah, exactly. But I mean, you watch that, it's perfect. You can't fault it. So no wonder it got nominated for an Academy Award.
How
I think
many
it won the Academy Award for.
How many sci-fi films following Moonraker where had all their characters in space just moving in slow motion to show space? It just spawned so many slow motion movements in space. Brilliant, hilarious, and charming, and sensational all at the time. What a great film.
Yeah.
Bobby, how about you?
So yeah, I think I rated No Time to Die so highly. I mean, it's my joint second highest rated film, but I think like you, I'm gonna just put that to the side, and again sort of go on a little bit nostalgia, but also a little bit of a surprise because again I've got a Sean Connery in my top three. And you guys will know which that is. And my number one is From Russia with Love. I can see why it gets the vote from so many aficionados as well.
So stylish. So stylish, that film.
Yeah, it's just so stylish. It was the second Bond movie. They kind of hit the formula with that film for the first time, which then set the blueprint for everything else going on. I should have given the song from that film, the Matt Monro song, a special mention as well, because it's a great one. But yeah, it just... I could imagine if I was a kid in the 60s, which I wasn't, but if I had seen that film when I was younger, it really would have captured my imagination. And it had all those elements of classic old spy movies, and it was quite grounded as well. Apart from that batshit crazy scene
It's so brilliant with the gypsies.
gypsy camp, it's
Look,
absolutely
Bobby,
freaking
this
nuts.
is why I think when we speculate, and whether we have time to do that today or not, about the next film, I think the next film in the series will be set in the 50s. Because it's such a wonderful era to show again in terms of the style and the gadgets. I think that's where I think Bond will go next. But who knows?
So closely followed by my 2 and 3, which are very, very close together, and they're almost interchangeable, which are Moonraker and The Spy Who Loved Me. Now, The Spy Who Loved Me, I kind of wasn't in doubt. I knew going back to watch that after so many years, decades in fact, by reputation I knew that it was a great film. Moonraker was the one where I think a few of us, and Phil also, when he was still with us on this train, you were like, oh my God, not Moonraker. Like, God, yeah, we've got to get that one out of the way. And then we were all kind of like, Okay, this is going to be an interesting recording, isn't it? Because we all freaking loved it. It
Yeah.
was absolutely brilliant. Well, Phil didn't. He gave it a 3, I think. But I haven't got a rating in there for him. But I think he did give it quite a low one. But the three of us rated it so highly. And I think you're right, John. If there was any film that I would want to rewatch again and again, I think Moonraker just pips it for me, because it's ridiculous and it's fun and it's got Jaws and it's got Roger Moore at his quipping best and it's got laser fights and all this other nonsense in it as well. It's just brilliant and it looks gorgeous. The special effects in that film are so good. So yeah, there we go. From Russia with Love, Moonraker, The Spy Who Loved Me. There we go. And if I had to do it strictly on my ratings, then it would be From Russia with Love, followed by joint second Moonraker and No Time to Die, which are complete polar opposite movies, because one of them makes you laugh and gives you hope, and the other one has a very funny ending as well, keeping the British end up. And then the other one makes you cry multiple times. But there we go. And then it would be The Spy Who Loved Me after that. There we go.
Honourable thing. Best opening scene. Now, I will accept opening credits as well, but that gets me to a whole thing. But it can be the action scene at the start, if you like.
I have got 3.
Go on then.
Go on then.
Number 3, I think, has got to be Spy Who Loved Me, the ski chase with the iconic Union Jack parachute.
Very good.
I bet you've probably chosen that one too. Number 2, I do love the one-shot Mexican The Dead Parade Inspector. I really love that scene. And then my number 1's probably going to be, I think it's going to be just because of the coolness of it, when in Goldfinger, when Bond destroys the drug lab and removes his wetsuit to reveal for the first time he's wearing a tux. That's just the style, and again, so very Bond. Those are my 3 opening scenes that I enjoy the most. They're the kind of the before the music starts scene, the cold starts, really more than anything else.
I think Bobby, go for it.
Okay. So, in no particular order, GoldenEye, Pierce Brosnan's entrance.
Is that the bungee jump off the dam? That one?
Yeah,
that
right.
is really good.
Yeah. I mean, what a way to introduce a new Bond.
Yeah.
And then to have it, and then straight into that very first mission to set up the rest of the film.
Balls of steel.
Absolutely awesome. And also because one of the best first-person shooters of all time in video gaming history. Come on, like what a game, GoldenEye 64. Followed by a surprise one, which is Spectre's opening sequence, because flipping hell, it is edge of your seat, absolutely breathtaking, jaw-dropping. The helicopter stunt, the one take at the beginning, it is phenomenal. And then probably my favourite Bond opening scene of all time is Casino Royale. Not just the black and white shot where he gets his 00, but the free running sequence when they cut to Africa straight after.
That is really good, with the scaffolding and the crane and things.
Yeah. Another great way
really
to
clever.
Introduce a new Bond and to show just his brutality and the fact that this Bond is basically a get the job done at all costs. Those little moments where, the free runner sort of dances about and then he just crashes through the plasterboard. Just absolutely brilliant. Alex?
So, I'm so glad that you guys went first, because you picked all of mine.
Sorry.
On my list, I absolutely had the one shot from Spectre and the Day of the Dead. I think that was amazing. I think that the GoldenEye dam stunt is iconic, so I love that. Particularly it's important because that's father-in-law made a double of the dam, I think, or a shot of the dam, so he included that in there. You can go and listen to the podcast to hear about it, but I think there needs to be an honourable mention to the opening credits, and particularly to all of the girls who had to perform with no bras on or anything. There are quite a few nipples showing in the opening sequences, and
famously parodied by French and Saunders. I thought was brilliant.
That's right, yeah. And my wife spotted them every single time.
Was she quite?
Thank you for
acerbic about it all, was she?
I think she was more concerned for them because it looked quite cold, which it might have been.
They use ice cubes in a warm room, I'm told.
But it's just those silhouettes, and then all of a sudden you go, they're really not wearing much there. Oh, they're wearing very little. Right, okay. And then you're like, is this really a film suitable for any children? Probably not. But anyway, I think it was just one of those things that came to mind. And I think you could pick almost any, apart from the most recent ones, you could pick almost any of the first 20, and you would be like, oh, this is nice, this is pleasant, and then you'd be like, ooh, okay. And I just think it's worth an honourable mention.
Can we also mention Dalton's Gibraltar chase on the top of the back of the Jeep?
Oh, yes,
that is a really
choice.
really good sequence, I think. Was that the Living Daylights?
I think so. I'll have to check.
It was Living Daylights, wasn't it? Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah.
That's really good.
Yeah, that was the first one. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and there's some. I mean, we could talk for a long time about this. In fact, we have. How many hours is it, Bobby?
An hour and a half now.
No, I mean in total.
No, I mean in total. What would it be? It must be. I mean, you're talking
across the
over
55, 60 hours. You think?
Yeah.
It's got.
I think it's closer to 100 because we've done. Oh, hang on, 25. Yeah, no, 50, 60 makes sense, but it's a lot. So yeah, thank you for coming all the way on that journey with us, because that's a big commitment. So thank you for that.
I'm going to save the biggest honourable mentions for last, and that's to our audience members and members of the Tailoring Talk magazine community who have been on this journey with us.
We're still here now, you mean, Bobby? Listening to this at this stage, you mean?
Who are still here listening right now.
Well done.
And there are some of them out there. I do get messages, and I really, really thank you guys and girls for being on this journey with us. The Bondathon has evolved from beginning to present day, as have we as presenters. John and Alex joined sort of towards the end of the Connery era, and I think we were friends before this anyway, and we worked together before this, but I really, really feel like we've really bonded.
Very good
process.
Very good.
And as well as I mean, it's better than his Bonfire night, for God's sake. But I'm going to get a bit sentimental. I have to, but I think the Bondathon, as well as the opportunity to watch all of these wonderful films from beginning to end, it's been the opportunity to spend time with two wonderful co-hosts, and also
Alex.
just engaging with. And Alex as well, yeah.
Yeah, sorry guys.
And also to, just the conversations that I've had offline after each episode, when I've bumped into a client or, a friend that's listened to the podcast, or even just someone who's not in my personal life but has come into my life through the podcast, being an audience member and being a supporter of everything that we do. And we really, really do appreciate you guys. As we record here mid-December, the YouTube channel has grown steadily over the last 12 months. We took the covers off that a year ago, and we're almost at 1,000 subscribers, and we thank each and every single one of you. And I'm just really, really excited for what 2025 brings and what we do next. Speaking of which, what are we thinking, guys? Mission Impossible is the one I keep coming back to. Austin Powers, that's not going to take very long, is it?
Well, I mean, definitely Mission Impossible, but I think we do need to look at stay with the whole spy thriller genre. And we could branch into TV series as well. I think we could definitely look at some. I mean, you've got things like Spooks and Slow Horses, but again, it's what people would want to listen to. So maybe people can suggest things as well on the YouTube channel. But I think there's some landmark spy films we can look at. We can look at the more recent things like The Saint and this
Man from Uncle.
Yeah, because I used to be a big fan of the original series as well. But yeah, there's
McCallum and the other very famous Richards. What's his name?
The dark hair guy.
Robert Vaughn. No.
Yeah. Robert Vaughn.
Robert Vaughn. I think Robert Vaughn and David McCallum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then we've also got the original Leonard Nimoy. in The Man from U.N.C.L.E. as well. He was in it for a while. Yeah, so there's lots we can talk about in terms of spy and spy thrillers. And so we'll draw up a list, but I think we do need to go to Mission Impossible next because there's a good series that we can rewatch. And I think we'll make some comparisons with Bond as well.
Yeah, and I think also, you talked about there's no other franchise like this, and whilst it hasn't been running anywhere near as long, and it's been anchored by Tom Cruise the whole way through, I think for film series, I think what we're going to find when we revisit those films is that it has been consistently strong in terms of the quality of the films through that franchise.
There's one in particular.
I know you're thinking of number 2.
Yeah.
You're thinking of number 2, which stylistically in its own
Is that
right
2 or 3? I thought it was
is
3.
It's number 2. It's number 2.
Yeah.
You're thinking
The John Woo one.
the John Woo one. Yeah. But I always view Mission Impossible 2 as just as a sort of one shot. One of those in a comic book series where they just sort of go off and just
It's basically
different before they come back to the main
Tokyo Drift,
thing.
isn't it? Basically.
Yeah, that's
Fast and
it.
Furious.
And Tokyo Drift wasn't a bad
I
film.
think we could look at Fast and Furious because they started to branch into spy and thriller, didn't they, and sort of espionage as well. But
I'm quite happy to do those
because I think the cars are those we can talk about as well, and you like your cars, Bobby. But I do think we need to speculate about the next Bond, but I think that could be our next full length podcast before we move into Mission Impossible, because I think that I would like to do some research on that before we do that and canvas opinion, and let's see if our plans and speculations match what happens in real life, because we've drenched ourselves in Bond over the last couple of years, and so I think we've got a good baseline to work on from there.
Yeah, for sure. Right, I think we're going to end it there. Thank you all so much again for staying with us on this journey, and stay on the train because there's a lot more to come. Please remember to like, subscribe, join in the comments. You can directly message the show if you're listening to the podcast. Go into your player in the show notes, and at the bottom you'll see a message the show link. You can text us directly and it doesn't cost you anything. And if you're watching on YouTube, get in the comments and give us your worst. So there we go. John, thank you. Alex, thank you. Have you both had fun over the last however many years it's been?
Yeah, well, it's been brilliant. And to quote Alex, I think when it comes to podcasts about Bond, nobody does it better than us, I think. Thank you, Alex, for that.
The Bondathon will return.
And that's it. I'm not going to allow you guys to do any outros and spoil that poignant moment. We'll end it there. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching. We will see you on the next Mission Impossible-a-thon or whatever this turns into. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.